Hello, 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 and welcome, welcome, welcome to the Pixelated Sausage Show. Hi, hi, hi. How is everyone doing? Hopefully well. I am just newly awakened, me being Marcus Genez, your host. Hi, how y'all doing? Like I said, hopefully well. I'm doing as I do. I think there's a hair there. Nope. That's the thing about every day when I take a shower. The thing I hate most is those loose hairs that come out after washing my hair. They're just there. I haven't put any product in my hair, speaking of hair, here yet, because I looked in the camera and I said, this looks fine. I don't need to put any product in there just yet. It's got some of that sleep hairness going on. I know this is all very, very exciting. Very, very exciting. But we are here not to talk about hair, but to talk about games, including Castlevania Dominus collection. Dominus? It's probably Dominus. Dominus would make more sense. Dominus is like, what is that? Dominus sounds Castlevania. Iron Meat, of course, the Dominus collection is the most recent one that collects the DS games, which are, of course, Dawn of Sorrow, Order of Ecclesia, and Portrait of Ruin. Then we also have Iron Meat, Necro Story, Astrea, Six-Sided Oracles, Keylocker, and Skautfold into the Fray. But before I get into all that, thought I'd talk about, just today, Nintendo announced an alarm clock, which I looked at and I said, that's kind of cute. And then I just heard it's $100. It's not cute anymore. That's way too much for what that thing. That thing looks like a plastic little piece of junk. It looked like the image in the circular alarm clock styling was a square display as well. They can't even get it to be a full. Fill that screen or get out of my face with that nonsense. All right? That's how I feel. Also, I would rather an alarm device from Nintendo be the question block. No clock on it. Maybe there's a clock somewhere in it, but let it just be an alarm clock thing, alarm device that you set via the back of it, or if you have to be stupid with it, you set it through an app, and when it goes off, you smash it a number of times to turn off the alarm. You have to keep smashing, and you'll hear the coin noise, and then after a while you hear the 1-up noise, and that'll turn the alarm off. Give me that instead. I don't know what this thing is. It's a clock, and it goes beep 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 beep. But in thinking about my ending of streaming once again, my short-lived streaming career number, I don't know at this point. One of the things I was thinking was the problem in some way, to some degree, is YouTube. In switching to YouTube, because if we look back to when I originally started streaming and the longevity of that original attempt, a lot of that was on Twitch. And while Twitch didn't bring in a lot of numbers or anything, because it is hard to organically grow on Twitch if you are not of this way or that way, and depending on what you play. When I switched to YouTube, while I like having all of the content in one place, it then forces upon me, not through any reason other than my own doing. A sense of obligation in the form of having to keep the streams to a specific structure and wanting them to be of a certain quality, and then removing this aspect or that aspect. No more soundboards, no more this, no more silly times. I want to keep it relatively clean and structured and of a certain degree of quality that I don't feel as required to do on Twitch. Which sounds a little negative in terms of talking about Twitch and saying that it's not worthy of quality. That's not what I mean. It's just feeling more shackled by the platform. And if I'm not liking the game, I'm going to stick to that 3-hour window I've created for myself on YouTube, because I feel like you need to stick to the thing you do. On YouTube, you want to keep it structured and you want to keep it scheduled. If I went back to Twitch, I could just stream whenever. I could be more loosey-goosey on Twitch. And I'm not saying I'm returning to Twitch anytime soon. I'm just saying if streaming were ever to come back, it would probably be on Twitch, and I would just accept Twitch and it would be Twitch. Unless Twitch implodes by the time that happens. Always possible. And then I was also thinking about the stuff I play. I don't think I would play things I'm doing for Attack the Backlog or second runs, but find those games that are in that Apex Legends type of space that I want to play, I like playing, but don't fall under any other category of content creation. Because all the time I was playing Apex, I wasn't really talking about it on the podcast because that wasn't the space for it. I wasn't making an Apex Legends podcast. I wasn't creating videos for it. I was just playing it, and when I streamed it, I was just streaming it. And so I was thinking about what I could play, and one possibility came up: Genshin Impact. I have been very curious about the game for a long time, and when it was finally announced for Xbox, I said, ooh, I guess I'll finally check this game out. I can't remember when it comes out. I think it comes out later this year. Maybe this month or next month. Well, that is something that would be a possibility. Final Fantasy XIV, another possibility. So Final Fantasy XIV is something I could look at and think of as a very long Attack the Backlog game. But even that, it might be too long, and maybe would be better for something like streaming. Though the issue with Final Fantasy and why it would consume my life more so, potentially, probably, is the fact that after a certain time, you do have to pay per month. And if I'm paying for it, I'm going to want to get my money's worth. So that is a bit of all that. Outside of that, still been struggling to move past the MCU rewatch. I finished it all. I watched Deadpool and Wolverine, and unsurprisingly, I thought that movie was pretty shit. I did not really like any of it. I'm over Deadpool's whole shtick. I hope we never get another Deadpool movie because I'm done with it. I don't need any more of this nonsense. The story was whatever. I will agree that it is probably the best and most respectful way of bringing Hugh Jackman back as Logan, as Wolverine, in a way that makes sense from a story standpoint. But I also don't think it was good enough to take away from the fact that before this, his last role was as Logan, which was a perfect movie in my eyes, and the perfect send-off for Hugh Jackman as an actor and his version of Logan / Wolverine. And I think the movie does in some ways spit on it I don't want to get in the exact details. If you've seen it, it has fun with the whole thing. And I look at it and I'm just like, really? I mean, let's just leave the character alone. All right. And the other cameos that they have in it. Spoilers for a fucking minute, though. If you haven't been spoiled on this already, fine. I don't know how, because they've openly talked about it on talk shows. Channing Tatum finally taking the role of Gambit. Did not like it. I think he's too thick to be the character. To me, there is a lankiness. He has the height, I guess, but he has a lankiness to him that Channing Tatum does not have. He looks too chunky, and I don't like the way he looks. I don't like the way he fits the character, and I do not like his voice. Some will say, "Oh, they're playing it up. They're going extra to make a joke of it." I don't know if that's the case, because if you watch the original animated series, they're not that different. I think certain fans will take his iteration and his voice and be like, "Oh my god, this is what I wanted all along." Maybe a lot of fans will say that. And the action also sucked in the movie. I don't, thinking back on it now, because it's been, I don't even think it's been a week, but it's already kind of left my memory. I don't know if there's any part of it that I liked. That I nice pool, no. Dog pool, no. Even the story, these characters, I don't understand. What is this? Our Deadpool universe? Was this our Deadpool to begin with? How the fuck is this the Starscream whatever dude? The guy from Mortal Kombat 2019 or whenever that one came out. How's that guy still alive? He's fucking dead. And didn't Rob Delaney die? I don't understand what's going on. Didn't his... I'm confused. Because I just don't care at this point. So we had that and Agatha All Along I'm watching, and I fucking hate that show. That show is fucking... I mean, I guess if you like witches, good for you, but... Fuck Hocus Pocus. Fuck The Craft. Fuck Agatha All Along. Fuck witches. Fuck the witches. Just get... No. Oh my god, I can't... It easily immediately became the worst MCU thing of everything. I finalized my ranking list of whatever 43 items, and Agatha All Along sits at the bottom with a half a star. If I could give it no stars, I would give it no stars. I guess I would still give it half a star because it technically works. It is a moving picture, so I'm sorry if you like the show and or like witches, but not for me. And outside of that, I can't remember any particular news that came out. I don't think I talked about this, but I happen to be one of the lucky few who got a PlayStation 5 Pro 30th anniversary bundle, which seems insane. I don't know how it happened. I still have struggles believing that it was actually that hard to get, since I managed to get one. But I'm going to get one, and unless something happens, I hope not, because I genuinely have a lot of love for PlayStation, even though the PlayStation now I'm not as hot on, not as keen on. But I think that is a growing opinion after the things they've been doing recently. But I'm really excited to get it, because I didn't manage to get that 20th anniversary one. And planning to, when it gets here, finally play The Last of Us Part 2. But I was also thinking to myself, what could I do with this? Don't tell anyone. I don't want my pre-order getting canceled. That's my big... I'm so paranoid about that something's going to happen with my pre-order. But what could I do to really piss off the hard hardcore PlayStation fans. And I had one suggestion which was to take the paperclip, the PlayStation paperclip, and unfold it into a line. That's good. And then I was thinking to myself, what else could I do? What if you can take them off, what if I took off the faceplates and just put on standard white ones? So I take away that grayness that is part of the appeal. And then I took the sticker, put it on my Xbox Series X, and then with the cable ties, I didn't know. I was like, what can I do? Can I wrap them around my Switch? Can I put them on? I was just trying to think of the things I could do to really annoy the hell out of people. And yeah, I'm not going to do that because I don't want to do that. And I'm not that kind of content creator. I'd rather wallow away in my small audience than do stupid, heinous shit to annoy people to try and get my 1 minute of fame. Now, my most popular tweet, not that I tweet anymore because tweeting is who wants to deal with X, but my most popular tweet was back when PlayStation did announce a PS4 for $400, and I said something along the lines of, now we know why the show started, because I think the show started late, maybe 5-10 minutes late, and I said something along the lines of, we know why they started the show late. It's so that they could change the slide from $400 from $500 to $400. Some along those lines. And that got, I think, maybe 500 retweets. Remember when Twitter was kind of a cool place to be? Yeah, I don't really either, but those are the days. Anyway, let's get on to what I've been playing, starting with Castlevania, the Dominus Collection. It's just called Castlevania Dominus Collection. So I just played a smidgen of this to see how it was. And I have not played, I do own, but I haven't booted up the Advanced Collection, so I'm not sure how they compare. But you have your 3 games to pick from, and then you have a gallery of pictures and some standard bonuses and extras. And this package also includes, which I don't know if it was why they talked about, the Haunted Mansion game, the original version, and a cleanup version or something, which I forget what it was, if it was technically part of the Castlevania series or an arcade game. But it's cool that that is in there, just a heads up to that. But I booted up Dawn of Sorrow to see how it played, how it looked, how the format of the screen was, and how they handled touch controls. I'm not entirely sure how touch controls will be handled in their entirety, because you do have because I'm playing on Xbox, I don't know if maybe the touchpad on the PlayStation is used, but the right analog stick moves the cursor, and I think you pushed in the right trigger to sign your name, your save file. But with the actual things where you were following, where you were tracing the little like spells, I forget exactly what they're called, spell summons that you used during certain points in the game, those are now just button prompts, basically QuickTime events. So they don't use the cursor then, but I'm assuming that it's been a while since I played the game. At some point you will need to use the cursor, and it'll probably be very slowed down so that you have the time to do it. But I like the fact that, at least to some extent, they have removed or been able to seamlessly remove the touch control aspects in favor of button prompt presses to make it more playable on regular hardware. But the game itself looks great, still plays so well. And the way the screen is structured by default is you have the main gameplay screen, not exactly centered, but it takes up a large part of the screen. And then on the side, you have the map always up, and then your status screen below it, always up. You can change the order so that the status screen is on top and the map is on bottom. And then there are some screen setups where you can still have the map always up, but not the status screen. The one negative to it is that there is no option to just have the game on screen and then go into a menu to access your map, status screen, etc. And that may be a bit of a turnoff for some. I could especially see it. I don't even know if I could see a full screen version of the map through a pause menu, which could be an issue on something like a Steam Deck or a Switch where you're playing it portably on this very tiny screen. But outside of that, on the TV, it looked great. So, yeah. Dawn of Sorrow is an incredible game, and it's worth picking up the collection for that game alone. I have never played Order of Ecclesia or Portrait of Ruin, but I'm excited to finally do it. And I am glad that I don't have to play it through my DS now, because I own both of them, because Dawn of Sorrow and Era of Sorrow were so good that, of course, I was going to get them. But never got around to them. That is, again, the Castlevania Dominus collection. Check it out, because Castlevania, pretty good. Castlevania is pretty good. Are there any ones left? I guess they never re-released. Did they ever re-release? Yeah, they did. Symphony of the Night, I think. I think they maybe didn't do it on Xbox, but they put out that Symphony of the Night. Did they do a bundle with that and Dracula X? Or whatever it's called, but not on Xbox, since you could just play the backward compatible version? I'm not sure. But Castlevania, pretty good. Next we have Iron Meat, which is a clear homage love letter to Contra. Classic 2D side-scrolling Contra. And I played through a good chunk of it. It's not that long. I would say to get through the game, it'll take you, depending on your skill and the difficulty level you put it on, anywhere between an hour and 2 hours. It's comprised of, I believe, 9 levels, and the way it's set up is you have your normal difficulty, and that gives you 16 lives to get through a level. If you die, you have to restart the level. But 16 lives is pretty generous. It is basically like playing with the Konami code active in the original Contra. If you put it on easy, you get 30 lives. If you put it on hard, I don't know what that would do. But it is very, very, very Contra-esque, to the point where it doesn't do anything really new, but what it does very well. And that could be a turnoff for some, or it could leave some people feeling a little less enthusiastic after playing it, just in the sense that if you're looking for more Contra, you're going to get that. More Contra, more new Contra, yes. But if you're looking for something that is an evolution of the genre, the run and gun side-scrolling shooter, you're not going to really get that here. It looks great, plays well. I don't love... Okay, first, the basic way it plays, to give you an idea of the Contra-ness of it. Side-scrolling shooter, of course. Like with later Contra games, you can hold 2 guns at one time, switch between them on the fly. And if you pick up an additional power-up of the same type of gun, so if you have a machine gun and you pick up another machine gun power-up, it'll improve your current machine gun. Same with spread gun, etc. And that's one of the ways in which it doesn't really evolve the genre, in that the weapons are just Contra weapons. They might be slightly different in how they work. The spread gun is significantly less powerful and satisfying than in the Contra games, because it's less spread out and it's more of a laser spread. But you have your laser gun, you have your, I always forget if it's the energy gun or whatever, the one that's the spinning circles that I never typically like in Contra games. You have your machine gun, you have a grenade launcher seeming, I think it's an H, and it's hand grenades, homing grenades. I don't know what the H is for, but you have that. And I think there's another thing that's kind of just feels like another machine gun, just another variation. So the guns aren't all that exciting in terms of bringing anything new to the table. Nothing meaty. And that's basically it. The level layouts and some of the bosses feel very reminiscent of various Contra bosses throughout the years. And it's not that that's a bad thing. It's just you're not really bringing anything new to the table. Nothing I haven't seen before. Through playing a bunch, one of the reasons why you would want to replay over and over and over again, you get a higher score, but there are 33 different skins to unlock, 2 of which are unlocked from the start. But there are 33 skins in total, so 31 to unlock. And you can mix and match them. So you can have this animal head with a human body, or switch it up so that you have animal arms, animal legs, human torso, human head, so on and so forth. There are various animals to pick from, in addition to plenty of human skins. Or you can just go with a full skin if you would not want to get too wild and crazy with it. I don't know if there was online co-op, but it's solid. It plays well. The one issue I have with it is that while you can lock yourself in place and then aim where you want to aim, you can't lock the position you're firing and then keep moving. So you can't lock shooting forward, for instance, and then be able to move backward, jump up, and so on. Once you start moving, then it's just the direction you're moving in is the direction you'll be shooting in. And I found that to be a little bit frustrating. And on top of that, this is a very, very D-pad centric game, and I don't think it plays particularly well on an Xbox controller. I was playing Castlevania with the D-pad on Xbox, and that felt better. So maybe it's just that there's something about the feel of the game that feels a little bit off, but I would very much like to play it with a DualShock, for instance, and that D-pad with its more comfortable position and just it being a better D-pad for playing. Because I think the D-pad on the Series controllers is the best we've had so far, but I also think it's more so just better for games where the D-pad is a quick menu, quick item use thing. What am I looking for? What word am I looking for? Just a input for quick items and whatnot. But it is a good Contra-like. Just don't go into it expecting anything super new or fresh. It looks good, plays well overall, D-pad issues aside, and it's generous with the lives and all that. So if you like classic Contra and you want some more of it, because that genre, that style of game is not something we get a lot of. We're not oversaturated with that like we are with deck builders or rogue lights / likes, Souls like, etc. Even just, regular platformers, Metroidvania games. We don't get a lot of Contra likes. We do get them here and there. I think the last one I can remember is Blazing Chrome, something along those lines. And when we get them, they tend to be pretty alright. But yeah, thinking back on it, I would probably put Blazing Chrome above this. That felt more fresh, and this feels so Contra-y, which can be a good thing or a bad thing. But that is, again, Iron Meat. Next we have Necro Story, which is this very, 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 very cute looking game about a necromancer you take the role of, and you're brought back to life. The story didn't grab me, and I think part of it is just because of the gameplay, which I'll get to. But it has this very beautiful crayon aesthetic, a bit of a blotchy crayon aesthetic that I love looking at. It is so pretty and cute and looks like a children's book come to life. I don't think the game itself, gameplay wise, would be inviting for a kid, sadly. But if you liked the way it played and had a kid or two, I think it could be a game they just like to watch you play. It just looks great. But the gameplay, which involves you walking around these areas and you'll have these ghostly apparitions, these dark spirits that if you avoid them, you'll avoid combat. You run into them, or if they hit you, you'll start a combat scenario. And the way combat works is off of cooldowns. So it's turn-based RPG-like combat, and you have a handful of spells on the bottom that all work off of cooldowns. And then you can also press the Y button, playing on Xbox, to do a melee attack that seems to just be random in terms of who it hits. And that'll put everything on a cooldown and allow you to rebuild a bit of your mana while you wait, so that you have, because when you're using spells, you're using your mana pool and it's not refilling, or it might be refilling at the same time, but this will give you some extra cushion for that. But instead of it being back and forth turn-based, it's just all off of cooldowns. So you use all your spells, they're all on cooldown, and then you just sit there and wait. You can also use your melee attack as well. And then you just wait while the enemy is attacking, any friendlies are attacking. And there's just something about that is super unengaging. Because I don't feel a strong amount of strategy to what I'm doing. And it felt really unsatisfying. There was an aspect of collecting the souls of enemies after you defeat them to get this mirror, and then you could capture them and bring them to your team, kind of Pokemon-ish, where you'll be fighting these mushroom creatures. You defeat one of them, and then you have your soul mirror capturing device all build up, and then you use it again during the next fight, collect the soul of a mushroom, and then you get one to fight alongside you. That's a kind of cool thing, but it still doesn't change the fact that the combat itself is pretty unengaging, sadly. But looks cute, might be worth checking out at some point, especially if you have young ones, because the art style, can't stress that enough. Love the look of it. Just I wish I liked playing it as much as I liked looking at it. And the story, while it didn't grab me or anything, it's kind of, there's some cute moments. I was just expecting the gameplay to fall more into the costume quest, Mario RPG line of things, where it was traditional turn-based and kind of a rock, paper, scissor system that you select actions and then you did a little minigame thing or press a button at a certain time to get a critical or avoid damage. Because that's simple but satisfying. I love the Costume Quest games, and I have not played an Mario RPG game yet, but I assume I would probably like those games. But that is, again, Necro Story. Astrea, Six-Sided Oracles, is a dice building roguelike. I'm not sure what they use. I played a bit of it, and I really like this game. It follows a very similar structure you've seen stuff like Slay the Spire, and so many other games where you start during any run, you start down a path, and then you'll have points where the path branches and you can either go to a store or a rest point or a shrine, a random event, or a battle, and you keep doing this and following the path until you reach the boss, and then you move on to the next area, and so on until you beat the game. And then you do another run, you unlock new characters, and so on and so forth. I, first off, love the way the game looks. I love the art style a whole hell of a lot. The character designs, the background art looks fantastic. I don't love the way the dice look all that much. I think they could make them a bit more distinct between the enemy and your dice. But the way it works is that it's turn-based, and at the beginning of a turn, all the dice are rolled. Your dice and the enemy dice. And then your dice will go into your hand, and the enemy's dice will go above them, show you what they're going to do, like in any game of this nature, most games of this nature. And like I said, the dice don't look that great. When they're rolled, I look at them all and I'm like, whose dice is what is everything? And then when they're handed out, when you get yours and the enemy gets theirs, it's fine. It's no big deal. But I do kind of wish there was a more distinct difference between your dice and the enemy dice. But that's a small little gripe. What I really like about the game is the way combat plays out, because it has a unique aspect to it that makes it feel unique and fresh and stand out in an incredibly overcrowded space. And that is this corrupt purify system. So the dice will do typically the core thing they do is one of two things: purify or corrupt. What you want to do to quote unquote defeat an enemy, because you're not really defeating the enemy. These enemies are all corrupt and you're trying to purify them to cleanse them of the corruption. And when you defeat an enemy, you'll actually just purify them completely, and then they'll run off. And that's something that's kind of nice, that you're not killing anyone, you're not slaying anyone in this game, you're just helping them. You're purifying them. But the way the purify corruption system works is that the enemies have a level of corruption to them, which is their health bar. And you have your purification meter, and you have 3 hearts as well. But the balance is you want to attack an enemy with purification to lower its corruption until you get to 0 and defeat them. But you also have corruption dice in your hand. You'll have dice that have both purification sides and corruption sides, so it's gonna be dependent on the roll what you get. And there are abilities that allow you to re-roll a certain number of dice, that allow you to every now and again change a corruption die to a purification die, or change the face, that is. There are abilities you get later on, or dice that will allow you to take another die and change it to the side you want for either you or the enemy. and a lot of various die and faces that have other unique abilities that'll give you shields, that'll attack everyone, attack only enemies, that when a die is re-rolled, then an ability will be triggered, so on and so forth. But you could have corruption faces in your hand, and what you do with those becomes very interesting, because if you attack an enemy with corruption, you'll not only heal them, they're healed by corruption because you're just re-corrupting them essentially, but they also have this over corruption meter that when that builds up, it'll initiate a certain ability, and you know what that ability is, that may attack you with corruption or do something else much more dramatic. So you have to decide what to do. Where are you on the how corrupted are you? Because if your purification bar goes down to 0, you'll lose 1 heart, and that heart won't come back unless something happens. You hit a shrine or you do something and you pay for it. So will you corrupt yourself? You'll eventually get these, they're not settlers, sentinels, that are these little things that'll help you, that join your team. They're not really beings, but you can corrupt them if you want. So this balance between purification and corruption becomes a very interesting thing to have to think about and strategize around. Do you attack yourself with corruption and then use purification on yourself? Do you have a very strong ability that you can have is, I forget the wording for it in something, but there's something that you can play that will for 1 whole turn allow you to not take any damage. So you can use that and then dump a lot of corruption cards that you might have because you just rolled a poor hand. But that balance and having to decide what to do makes the combat a lot more interesting and a lot more engaging, where you really have to, you can't just be like, okay, I see this enemy and I have attacks and I have defensive cards. I have offensive cards and defensive cards. I'm going to shield myself up and then I'm going to do these attacks to these enemies. It's more, okay, so the enemy currently has this much in their overconsumption, their overcorruption. They have this going on. I have these dice in my hand. Should I do this? What order do I play these dice in so that I don't accidentally over corrupt myself and lose a heart? I need to make sure I am very aware of everything that is going on. And you'll unlock new dice as you play along. One of the things I really like too is that you can, after every, I think, battle, you get 2 new dice that you can add if you want, and they give you 3 options. A safe dice that's not super powerful, but you don't have to worry about it potentially giving you corruption, a balanced one, and a risky one. And I tend to for the risky ones because the perks, if you get a good roll, are usually very, very good. But you can take a risky die and over time make it super powerful by going to shops over a run and buying a new face, a good, powerful face to replace one of the corruption faces on that die. And that was also very satisfying. I'm still very early in it, but first impressions, I got through the first area, beat the boss. So it seems maybe at least early on the easier side if you're just paying attention, which is not a bad thing because it could get progressively much more challenging. I'm not sure how many areas there are, but I'm quite impressed with it. I like these types of games, and many of them tend to fall into the, we're just going to be Slay the Spire, but maybe a little bit different. Or we're just going to be Slay the Spire, but with a different aesthetic. And this feels genuinely unique and like something that's found its own space within this subgenre. So definitely worth checking out if you like deck building, dice building, hand building games. That is again Astrea Six-Sided Oracles. Keylocker is a cyberpunk turn-based JRPG, I think they like to call it, and I played a bit of it, but didn't stick with it because I don't like the way the combat works. A lot of story in it, didn't really do anything for me. I don't love the look of it all that much. It's very neon-y, colory. It feels very, I mean, I guess this is just in the cyberpunk nature, 90s-ish trapper keeper. I had pants that look like this and jackets that look like this style of notebooks and stuff. Nobody knows what I'm talking about. I don't even know what I'm talking about. But a lot of pinks, greens, blues. There's something about it that just didn't grab me. It felt very... I don't know why it made me think of ToeJam and Earl in the way it played, but it kind of did. It doesn't look anything like ToeJam and Earl. But what I don't like about the gameplay is that when you get into combat, the way it works is that it's kind of very small grid base, hexagonal, I think it was. And it works off of turns, and there's a turn order. But what you're doing is attacking your enemy, defending against their attacks, and when you flash or they flash white, you press the A button to hopefully hit a perfect attack, a perfect block. And if you hit that perfect timing, you'll do a significant amount more of damage, or perfectly block an attack and not take any damage. And so if you get this timing right, combat becomes relatively easy. But it just never felt right. It felt more like, don't press me when you see me flash white. Press me when you know I'm about to press. It just felt off. And because it never felt quite right in certain enemies, it's like, wait, am I pressing A when are you gonna flash white, or is that now you have a bar above your head and you're moving a thing, and when the thing is in the white space, it just did not feel right. That's all I can say about it. It just didn't feel right. I played it for about an hour, and the whole time I'm just like, this feels off. I'm not feeling this. I'm not feeling this. Which is a shame. And I also don't love the way the UI is, not the UI, but the menus are handled. So you have this cell phone, PDA-like device, and you bring it up and all the menus are in there, your status screen, etc. And they're all different sections of it. And they're very stylistically in line with the game and the cyberpunk nature, but they are very, very... I assume you get used to them over time, but I looked at them and I thought, oh my god, this is too much. I can't handle what I'm looking at right now. But that could be a very me thing. They were overwhelming with over design, almost. And in some of them, they just felt kind of tiny. The game overall didn't really do a whole lot for me. Then last is Skautfold. Skautfold, Skautfold, Into the Fray. which is part of a series, I guess, on PC. This just came out on consoles. And this is, I think, the third game in a series that maybe has 5 games. I don't know if the other games, at least 1 and 2, are on consoles as well. If they're not, seems kind of weird to just randomly throw the middle one in. But it's a twin stick shooter with not so great art that doesn't feel particularly great. Surprising amount of story in this one to begin with, my god. But it doesn't play particularly well. I don't know what else there is to say. I played it for a bit, and the way it works is you're some, I don't know if you're a demon hunter or what you are. You get shot in the back by this person, and then this brain being says, "Hey, I can bring you back to life, but you're gonna have to put me in your stomach." And you're like, "Cool, here's a cape. Now go kill everyone." Like, all right, cool. And you have a basic pistol. Get additional weapons over time, like a shotgun and whatnot. And you find ammo around the environment, or if you kill an enemy that uses a particular type of gun, they'll drop a little bit of ammo. And then you also have melee and the ability to kick. And it just doesn't feel good. It doesn't look good. I had no fun playing it at any point. So, not too much to say about that one. That is again Skautfold Into the Fray. And that is it. So that will do it for this here episode of the Pixelated Sausage Show. Once again, I am Marcus Nez. Y'all can find me pretty much everywhere at PX Sausage. If you enjoy this here show or any of the stuff I do and what have you, you can support me and my nonsense over at patreon.com/PXS. There you can get access to a monthly Q&A, some fancy Discord roles, a private Discord channel, random drops here and there, and more depending on your tier. Or you could just support me to support me if that is your fancy. That is, again, patreon.com/PXS. In addition to the Patreon, you can find links to the site, the YouTube, the Discord, and so much more over at pxsausage.com. But that is it. That is all. As always, thank you for watching or listening. I hope you enjoy this here episode, and I hope you have both a wonderful rest of your day, a lovely rest of your week, and a wonderful weekend. But for now, adios, arrivederci, bye bye. It's go time, go daddy. It's go time, go daddy.